All right, 3, 2, 1, and we are live. Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum, guys. Welcome to the Ummahpreneur live podcast. And on this very special episode, I know we haven't released an episode in about 2 weeks. I was on a little vacation, but now that we're back, we're going to be back stronger and we're going to do a lot more of these. And today I have with me performance and mindset coach, brother Sulaiman Ali, who is the CEO of Sully Ali Coaching. He's an employability trainer and facilitator. He's a performance and mindset coach, and he even does his work online and locally within organizations, within secondary schools, and helps people from all ages and all backgrounds. And I wanted to bring him on today for this special episode to discuss about a few important things, such as performance, mindset, and how to really set goals and reach these goals, and how to be more successful as an entrepreneur and as a person, so in your life and in your business. So thank you for being here, Sulaiman. It's a pleasure to have you.
You're welcome. And it's a pleasure that I'm that you invited me, and I feel honored and blessed to be here. So thank you for the opportunity.
The pleasure is ours, and I'm so excited to kind of dive into all these topics we're going to talk about today. And we really start off every single podcast with the same question, which is by having the guest share a little bit about their story. So can you tell us a little bit more about the journey, the transformation that you went through that inspired you to become a performance coach, to help people with their mindset and with their performance in life and business?
Yeah. So what it is I actually, in total, I've been coaching for about 5 years now. Mm-hmm. And initially, it was just something that I'd never kind of intended to become a mindset coach, or, I didn't even know what coaching was. So it's been a real kind of journey for me. It wasn't something that and I wouldn't say it's something that just came kind of naturally, or I've just woke up one day and said, okay, today I'm going to be a coach. So I started coaching about 5 years ago, and I really just started coaching family, friends, colleagues on a very casual basis. I was still working a full-time job. I used to work for a housing provider as a community engagement officer. So I was always had that kind of passion of working with people, empowering others. And I always knew whatever I want to do in life, it has to be about other people. It has to be about actually reaching out to others and making a difference in people's lives. Mm-hmm. Now, I knew that my purpose, it wasn't just about kind of me and my own family and my own community, but also about reaching the wider community, working with people on a national level, and hopefully on a global level. Well, not hopefully, actually, inshallah, it will be on a global level.
Of course.
Which I already do because I do online coaching as well. So so I started coaching, and when I was working my full-time job, I kind of realized that I've been doing this corporate job for the last 10 years. And soon I realized there was no kind of drive, there was no fulfillment. And the company was going through constant restructures. The role had changed, and it just wasn't giving me that kind of, that motivation anymore. There was no fire in my belly. And I just knew that I needed to do something different. And I felt like I've done this for 10 years, but actually, what is it that I really want to do going kind of 10 years after? I don't want to stay in this role. And I started looking into personal development. I started attending networking events. I started to really speak to people who I know. So I attended online networking events, offline events, face-to-face, and just getting to speak to other kind of people and build my own kind of network. I became more active on LinkedIn, more active on social media, such as Facebook. And just kind of at that time, this was in July 2014, I was going through some personal challenges, and I lost my father, which was really sudden. And it really kind of made me reflect on my own life, my own purpose and my own direction, and where I want to go in the future. And that's when I knew kind of deep down that I want to work with people. I want to influence them. I want to make an impact in people's lives. So really, I brought together my own passions, my skill set, and kind of what I love doing, which was actually working with people, building relationships. And so I kind of brought everything together and amalgamated my own skills, my passion, my talents, and also something that I really love doing, which is making a difference, being a difference. And that's how I initially kind of got started with my coaching business.
Okay.
Prior to this, I've got background of youth work. So I always knew that I've got a kind of a passion and a soft spot for kind of empowering young people. So I always wanted to keep something that was going to be, some projects that actually I could touch and reach the lives of young people as well, and those living in disadvantaged communities. So that's how initially I started.
That's amazing, mashallah. It's an amazing story.
Journey, sorry.
No, definitely. And it kind of goes, I mean, it is a roller coaster, which is kind of always the case. I mean, whenever I ask this question, no one ever says, you know what, it was straightforward. I made a decision and that was it. And it kind of happened that way. There's always a series of events that kind of leads you to where you are today. And I appreciate you sharing that with us. And you mentioned a few amazing things that you kind of went through. One was how when you were working, you kind of always had that desire to help others, and you realized you weren't really getting that in that, really big corporate job where your impact isn't as direct as when, let's say, you work one-on-one with someone in your coaching. But you also had some very difficult moments, like when you lost your father, and that kind of also inspired you to be like, how can I help others maybe cope through these situations as well, and kind of keep their mindset intact. And that brought you to where you are today. Now, what's the biggest reason that people come to you for help? When people generally come to you and they say, hey, Sulaiman, I need help myself with my mindset, with my performance. You're someone who has been through these things and who now has taken these talents that they have to help others. What are you bringing to the table for these clients, and what do they usually come to you for in terms of problems?
I think when I first started coaching, I had a lot of clients coming to me about confidence issues.
Mm-hmm.
And confidence is still a big issue within people's lives, because it can, 1 minute you can be confident, next minute you go through some trauma, go through some challenge in life, and your confidence can be completely dropped. So when I first started, I had a lot of people that were coming to me with low self-esteem, confidence issues, no self-belief, and then kind of probably over the last 2 to 3 years, I work more with entrepreneurs, started working with business owners. And so it was challenges around kind of how to beat procrastination, how to set goals, personal goals, but as well as business goals. Also things to do with like how to get rid of limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously limiting beliefs play a big part in our lives. They shape a lot of our decisions, our choices, our behaviors, and how we actually go ahead in our life, and that could actually limit us and our success. So there's those kind of are the main, I'd say, areas that people come to me with, and as well as that, obviously mindset is linked to really everything that we do.
And when someone comes to you with that, which is, we both know it's not something that can be I would say cured overnight, right? It's not something that you can just kind of change in someone right away. Here's a magic solution. It's a process, right? Which is why you take your clients through a certain process. What does that process usually look like when you work with your clients? What are you doing with them, let's say week by week or month by month?
So what I do is I have a range of programs.
Mm-hmm.
So I do one-to-one work mostly, and then I have run some group coaching programs, but mostly one-to-one work. And I have a range of programs. So I have like a personal development 6-week program, and that works with anyone really. So it could be somebody who's aspiring to be a business owner, or somebody who's in maybe a full-time job and looking to transition from a full-time job into their own business. And then then there's that program for them, which is basically like a 6-week personal development program. But then I have also a business and mindset program, which again, so my programs, some of them are, I've got different ones because I can't explain them all kind of now, but basically they range from like a 6-week program, and then I have like a 3-month, a 6-month, and a 12-month program. So I have a range of different programs, and what I initially do is I initially have just like you could say a discovery call or an informal conversation with somebody on the phone, or it would be via Zoom, and then I would just speak to them and really see kind of if they're a good fit with obviously for working with me, and likewise, and see what their aspirations are, what their challenges are, and if I could help them in any way, then I would, obviously share that with them.
That's awesome. And so that completely makes sense, where you speak to the person first to understand what it is that they want, and then based on what it is that they require, then you'll give them the appropriate program that best fits their needs, from what it sounds like.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Which completely makes sense. And when it comes to, I guess, mindset as a specific topic, since we're talking about that in our discussion today, and it's something that your clients come for help in regards to their mindset. Is there a secret formula for creating a successful mindset? A lot of people kind of look for that. We look at these entrepreneurs that are doing amazing things, that are making these 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures in business, and a lot of them will mention that a big part of it is due to their mindset. But what does that mindset look like? I mean, is there any secret to having that success mindset?
I think that's a really good question, and it's probably a key question in anyone's, especially if they're looking to overcome a challenge, or if they're looking to achieve a big goal. Mindset does play a massive part in in that success. I wouldn't say it's not. There isn't a secret kind of element to it, but there are definitely actions that you've got to take in order to achieve that success and achieve that mindset. And with success, obviously, success is different for everybody, and people will have different levels of what success means to them. Now, I think with mindset, for me, it's been a journey for me, and there's certain things that I've done in my life that's helped me to become more resilient when it comes to my own mindset, and how I can actually work with challenges and things like that. So, for example, I'd say, like, for me, the main thing is just some of the tools I would say are things like gratitude. Having like every morning when I wake up, I always think of 3 things that I'm grateful for, and that actually sets me up in the best possible way for the day ahead. Now, prior to that, actually before my gratitude, I would also say every night I always plan what I'm going to do the next day. So I always have like a rough plan of what's going to be achieved, what are the tasks that I need to work on. I break them down, and kind of it sends a magical, you could say, a message to your mind. Even when you're sleeping, it's deep within your unconscious that you're actually thinking about those tasks. And so in the morning when you wake up, you're actually ready for the day. So years ago, I used to just be someone who never used to plan, just take each day as it comes. And there's nothing wrong with that. People do that. And I wouldn't say, it's a deal breaker. But for me personally, I would say, in order to make changes and successful changes in your own life in an empowered way, you have to actually be able to plan. And I agree, in terms of, like, we can plan as much as we want. Obviously, Allah's the best of planners, and we know that. But there's nothing wrong with actually, making your own, creating your own life in a sense, but also planning as best as you can. Because if you're going to go through a challenge, and if you've got a plan in place, you're actually going to be able to bounce back more effectively from that challenge. So I would say, definitely kind of plan, set your daily goals, your daily targets. Gratitude is powerful. And I would say, like, with gratitude, be grateful for what you've got in your life. It could be something, it could be shelter, it could be your safety, your health, your family, your network, people around you, whatever it is. Always think of different things that you could be grateful for. And I think that puts you in a really powerful kind of stage. And research has also shown that, when you are actually thinking of kind of gratitude and what you are grateful for and what you are thankful for, that sends, like, it gives you that fantastic kind of feeling of happiness, fulfillment, and contentment. And so it's really good for your kind of mental health as well. What I would say is, one of the things that one of the biggest lessons for me is actually, I think, being about surrounding myself with the right people. If you surround yourself with the right people that are ambitious, people that are goal-oriented, people that are, set themselves goals, people that want to achieve something in life, you're going to pick up them habits, you're going to pick up their traits, their behaviors. and you're going to start to implement them in your own life. If you're going to hang around with the wrong people, people that are negative, people that are toxic, people that are going to actually not serve you as an individual, that's going to have a negative impact on you, and that will show. That's what you're going to project to the rest of the world. So it's important that you surround yourself with the right people. Yeah, sorry, I've gone off a bit of a tangent there, but
you touched so many things that I'm like, okay, restore that. If you want to address it, restore that. If you got to keep going because you're dropping gold right now. Go for it.
Yeah, so I think just a couple of things, like what I've done in my life, I think that have really helped me. Now, one of the other things is reading. Now, reading, people think isn't really that that important, but reading is key. Even if it's 20 to 30 minutes a day, just read. These days you've got lots of different things you can absorb, information you can learn from. You've got podcasts, you've got audio books, you've got physical books that you can read. So I would say reading is really important, because that actually, it's like feeding your mind nutrition. And it's a really great way to actually, get yourself started in terms of your, work on your mindset, but also it gives you a lot of knowledge. And as they say, knowledge is power. But I would say knowledge is power only when that power is actually, transformed into action. So it's important that, you can feel empowered as much as you want. You can feel inspired as much as you want by watching a YouTube video, by, listening to Tony Robbins, but it's actually down to you to actually do something about it. And for me, I believe that, whatever I've kind of learned in terms of personal development, in terms of I've always been a person that kind of loves learning. And I always feel that I have to pass that learning on to other people, whether it's through my kind of, my talks, my coaching, or generally in day-to-day conversations with people.
That's awesome. So there's so many points that I wanted to touch, Brother Sulaiman, and you touched on so many amazing things that it's interesting because I'm working on in my life right now. So I resonated with a lot. The first one, of course, is that we're going to talk about, and I'll talk about them in order. The first one of them is gratitude that you mentioned. Yeah. And the importance about that is really the daily practice aspect that you mentioned, and that I personally as well. And I think everyone here probably hears that and has heard it before, but how consistent are you really with that daily practice? Because I think that's the biggest challenge of not only recognizing that this is important, but then applying it every single day to your life. And that's only in that moment will you really start to find results of gratitude and find the benefits in your life and experience the benefits in your life, is when you make it a daily practice. So I think just what you mentioned of starting the day and writing down 3 things that you're grateful for is just such a powerful start to your morning, because it gives you that emotional energy, that emotional boost. And it's definitely something that I personally have to work on more as well, because it's all about that daily consistent practice. And that's very, very important, more important than we think, to position our mind in a way where we are positively approaching the day and our tasks. The second thing you talked about, and this is one of my favorites, which is planning the night before. This is actually something, subhanAllah, we actually teach in our program, Ummahpreneur, which is to really open up your daily task planner or your calendar and write down all the things you're going to work on the next day, the night before. Because as you mentioned, and you brought an interesting point that I wasn't even aware of how your mind is going to absorb that information, and then it's going to kind of let it marinate overnight, so that when you wake up in the morning, you're ready and your brain already knows, all right, go. This is what I need to do. And one added benefit that I'll give to that as well is the peace of mind that it brings as well. I think that when you wake up and you don't know what you're going to do in your day as an entrepreneur, because we control our time completely, it actually causes a little bit of stress and anxiety. And it also causes us to end up running all over the place, doing things that might not be efficient or might not be productive for our business, right? Because we're responding to emails as they come in, responding to messages, and it tends to then just be reactive instead of proactive, which is the approach that you're mentioning. So I 100% vouch for that. Another thing you mentioned as well that I'm personally started is reading, because I'll admit, and I think other people in this live can probably relate to this, is I really experienced difficulty being consistent with my reading. I have to be honest about this. I am very enthusiastic about listening to a podcast, listening to an audiobook. I love listening to things, but sitting down and opening a book is always a challenge for me. So I actually made it into a challenge. And I went and I told my wife, and I'm like, listen, what we're going to do is for the next 30 days, we're going to make a challenge where we're going to read 10 minutes a day. Okay, we just have to read 10 minutes a day. Let's just do 10 minutes, but let's make sure that every single day we're going to read for 10 minutes. And we actually started just yesterday, subhanAllah. So it's amazing that you brought this up. And we did it. We hit the mark yesterday, but that's easy to say. That was day one. You know, I have to follow up with you on day 30. But it's something we're working on. So it's just interesting because these things I actively notice that they're missing from my life, that successful people do them. And that is something that I need to implement. And the fact that you're mentioning it as well, I just hope everyone is taking notes, because just that in itself, that value that you just brought is enough of a takeaway to just be like, you know what, I have enough here to apply for the next 30 days and make a difference in my business and in my life. So I just want to thank you, because that was all very impactful. And I do want to keep this going and see if I can squeeze out a few more golden nuggets out of you. So we're going to continue this.
Yeah. No, and that's a key point what you've mentioned as well, in terms of consistency is key for all of these, you know, for any habits that you want to create, for any new habits you want to form, you have to actually do it consistently. You know, some people say form a new habit within 21 days. Some people say 30 days. Regardless, you know, if you can do it for 30 days as a minimum, that's, you know, that's brilliant. And you will change, you know, you will notice those changes within you and think, wow, this is something new and something different now. But I would always say, like, I work with clients who, you know, who want to actually change their, you could say, behaviors or their habits. You know, it could be time management, or it could be, you know, not procrastinating about something. So I always say is replace it with something else. Don't try stopping that habit completely just like that, because it's not going to work. You have to actually replace it with something else. So you have to do something else in that place to be able to, you know, try to get rid of that habit. And that's probably going to be, you know, best work for that particular kind of person.
100%. And that, again, it's so amazing how I'm resonating with everything you're saying right now, because in my life, these are changes that I'm going through at this time. And one thing that I do want to say as well, and it's just so I can be open with my challenges so that other entrepreneurs can relate. And I'm sure all of us do, because it's hard to be perfect all year round. And I think all of us will experience that, where sometimes we're very consistent, we're very good, we're very focused. And there are other times in the year where it's a bit more of a challenge, depending on what's going on around us. And that's normal. But the important part is not to feel like just because you're going through that challenging period that you give up and you just kind of let yourself go or become apathetic to your situation, essentially, where you don't care anymore. Because it's important to understand that life is ups and downs. You will have those ups where you're consistent, and you will have those times where you're not as consistent. But if you're always trying, if you're always putting in an effort, that's what matters. That means you're not letting yourself go. And one thing you mentioned, that replacing a negative habit with something proactive, instead of just trying to focus on eliminating it, really helps. And that is something that I've experienced as well in my life. When I just try to let something go in and of itself, it's very challenging. But when I kind of twist it around and say, okay, how can I replace this with something else that I enjoy, but that is more beneficial to me? That's when I have the most chances to get it to work. So guys, I hope you're listening. I hope you're taking notes, because all of this so far has been absolute gold. If you're getting value, drop me a value in the comments, inshallah, because this is just absolutely amazing. Again, thank you for all these tips. And I'm going to squeeze a little bit more out of you. So you yourself, you know all of this, and you help others with this. I want to ask you, I want to get a little bit about your daily routine. What do you do yourself to perform at a high level on a daily basis, outside of what we just talked about? We talked about the gratitude. We talked about the planning. Is there anything else outside of that you also do, maybe personally, that we can get inspired by?
I think for me, it's like for me, I work with mentors. I've worked with coaches myself. Now, you know, you don't need to think, okay, I need to pay somebody to work with a coach. You know, I need to pay a coach to work with them, or I need to pay with a mentor. Your friend could be your mentor. You know, for me, I've had people holding me accountable. And like for me, goals, I think now I love setting goals, and I know kind of how to set goals, and I don't really need anybody to kind of hold me accountable. I'm quite disciplined when it comes to that. I'm really like organized with my goals. But when I first started, I was working with, you know, mentors. I had a coach myself, and they were holding me accountable. So it's really key, if you struggle to, you know, set goals for yourself, set daily targets and stick to them, then it's important that you do reach out to get that support, because we do need that help, or we do need that guidance. You know, and it could be a friend that you touch base with maybe once a week, check in with your goals, see how you're getting on, and just kind of inspiring and motivating each other along the way, because it does make it kind of more easier if you've got somebody there who's actually, you know, on your sidelines and, you know, cheering you on, that kind of thing. So yeah, so I would say, like, definitely, you know, get that help, get that support if you need it.
Mm-hmm. So kind of keeping yourself accountable, and that's a huge part as well of making sure that you get it done, which is 100% true. Because for example, you know, I have a friend who reads a lot, and I told him, listen, I'm going to do this challenge for this 30 days, read 10 minutes a day. And he's kind of holding me accountable to that, right? He's like, all right, you know, how did you do today? Are you still on top of that? And that drives me, because I know I have to go and tell him if I messed up. Whereas when you don't have to tell anyone, you kind of give yourself a little bit of leniency. You talked about setting goals, and that's something that I want to touch upon as well. The thing about setting goals that I want to really get an answer for, that I might personally experience challenges with, is when you set goals, there's the benefit of having a clear target. But then as well, sometimes we might not reach these goals, and it could cause us a bit of a loss in confidence, or a loss in maybe our belief in ourselves. How is it possible to set goals, but also stay positive if ever we don't meet them, and stay focused?
Yeah, I think like the goal setting process is, it's something that you probably have to like learn. It's something like setting goals is a skill itself.
Mm-hmm.
And employers actually love people who can set goals. And so if you're an employed person in an organization, that's a skill that you can develop. And entrepreneurs, obviously, that's a key skill to become an entrepreneur as well, to get good at the goal setting process. Now, I would say is, like, for me, there's 5 key areas of setting goals, which I'll go into more detail. But when you come to setting goals, you need to allow flexibility within that goal setting process.
Okay.
So if you're new to setting goals, okay, I would say, you know, take it easy. Maybe you create a list of 40 to 50 things you want to achieve, okay? Short, medium, or long term. Prioritize them, short, medium, long term, okay? What do you want to achieve within the next 3 to 6 months? What do you want to achieve 6 to 12 months? And what do you want to achieve 12 to 18 months, or, you know, and then 2 years plus, that kind of thing. So you're creating like a process for yourself. Now, out of those 50 items that you're going to be listed, you're not going to be able to complete all them in 12 months, in 6 months. You have to be realistic about it as well. The audience and everyone probably has heard of SMART goals. Mm-hmm. Now, SMART goals does play a part in everything that you do, but also you need to make sure that like when you're setting goals, you break those down into manageable chunks for yourself. Break those goals down, you know, and just be okay with the fact that you're not going to achieve everything. And don't beat yourself up about it. You can always try again, as long as you've tried. But also, you know, there will be goals that you create for yourself that you think, oh, this is something that I want to achieve. But deep down, it's actually not something that is going to give you that. It's not going to have that meaningful approach for you. It's not going to have that it's not going to really resonate with you. It's not going to give you that fulfillment, even though you've achieved that goal. So it's important that you spend time to any goals that you set. They are meaningful. They're aligned with your own values. It's really important, because you find a lot of people setting themselves goals, you know, just say, for example, your neighbor bought a new car. Okay. Your best friend bought a new car. Okay. They've bought a new car. I want to buy a new car. Okay. I've bought the new car, but still I don't feel happy, and I don't feel content. And just because your neighbor, your friend did this, that's why you've done it. Okay, and you think it's going to make you feel good, but it wasn't actually aligned with your own values, your core your core values in this from the start. So I would say it's important that any goals you set, they're meaningful and they're personal to you as an individual. Now, one thing that I've always done is I create myself a vision board. Now, people call it a vision board, a goal board, an achievement board, whatever it is. And I find kind of having that up in my office, that helps me to stay motivated. It keeps me on track, but also like it's on my mind all the time. And it really sets the tone for me, because it tells me that, okay, this is what I'm aspiring to achieve, and this is what I'm going to achieve for that, for that coming year. And with goal setting, I would say, like, a lot of people think setting goals, okay, you have to wait till December, you have to wait till New Year's coming around the corner. That's when you can set goals. You can set goals any time of the year. And so I would encourage you all to even like set goals, at any time of the year, and then make sure you monitor and review your goals kind of, ongoing. That's an ongoing process. So coming back to, I think, the 5 key areas that I mentioned when it comes to setting goals, the first thing is you've got to be specific with the goals. What is it that you really want to achieve? You have to be crystal clear, or else you're going to put in all this work and you're going to feel like, okay, you're going to feel deflated because you've not been clear right from the word go. So it's important. Now, when I first started my business, I wasn't clear as to who my niche is going to be. Who am I going to help? I had to help lots of different people, and then kind of narrowed it down to certain people who I want to work with. So you're not going to know all the answers. But what I would say is the first thing is you got to be specific. And so, if you want to start your own business, who are your customers going to be? How much profit you want to make? How much money do you need to make on a daily basis in order to come up with an amount that you need to earn every month? And so you need to break everything down and be crystal clear. So I would say kind of be specific. One of the other things is, now, if somebody's new to setting goals, it's important that they do set themselves some big and compelling goals as well.
Okay. Big goals.
You need to push yourself out of your comfort zone. And, there's a famous quote, reach for the stars, what is it? Reach for the stars and aim for the moon. Yeah. Something of that nature.
Exactly.
So yeah, you have to be able to, be ambitious with your goals. What I would say is, like, if somebody's new to setting goals, maybe set yourself between 2 and 5 big goals for the 12-month period. And then kind of see how it goes from there, because the big goals, they're going to inspire you to do bigger things, and they're going to push you out of your comfort zone. They're going to push you out of your limits, and you're going to be able to achieve lots more, and you're going to be able to really kind of, really surprise yourself, think, wow, if I can achieve this, what else can I do? And with the goal setting process, get people involved who are actually going to help you to achieve your goals. So like on my vision board, when I'm doing my vision board, I've got children. So I get my 2 boys to, help me I ask them, what do they want to achieve for the next 12 months? What should we do as a family? So bring it all together and bring those people on board. That's awesome. That's going to help you to stay on track, but also it's going to help them understand kind of, okay, this goal setting process, how it works. And also they're going to be like on your side, because they're going to be on board with you and your goals. When it comes to setting big and compelling goals, what I would say is I always like give an example when it comes to thinking about doing something a bit different, and when it's a big goal. Now, thinking of dropping weight. Okay, so somebody who wants to lose 5 pounds in weight compared to somebody who wants to lose 50 pounds in weight. Okay, so when I'm doing I've done goal setting workshops with like groups of people. So I always ask them, who do you think is going to lose more weight? Who is it going to be easier for losing more weight? The 5 pounds, the person who wants to lose 5 pounds, or the person who wants to lose 50 pounds? Right. And most people, again, naturally, or in the audience, they always say, okay, the person losing 5 pounds is going to be easier for them. But in fact, it's going to be easier for losing 50 pounds. You know why? Because there's a massive aspirational component attached to losing 50 pounds. That person's going to look completely different. It's going to be a new transformed individual. And the outcome is, for them, is juicy. It's going to be significant, big impact in their life. Okay, somebody who wants to lose 5 pounds, again, no one's going to really notice them losing £5. You know, they'll be able to lose that £5, do a bit of work during the week, go to the gym, and they won't need to make major changes to drop those £5. Whereas somebody who wants to lose £50, it's going to be hard work involved, more consistency, you know, changes to their nutritional habits, their food, their diet, and everything. So there's a whole massive kind of labor-intensive work involved in that. But in the end, they're going to be more likely to lose that £50 and keep it off, because that's going to make a massive difference to their life. So it's important that, you know, somebody can visualize and have a massive kind of aspirational component attached to a big and compelling goal. So which is, I always say that, you know, set goals, but also include some big goals that are going to scare you, you know, that are going to push you out of your comfort zone.
100%. So, yeah, go for it. I was going to ask you, so I have here, so if you can recap the 5 key areas, specific big goals, do you have any more in there?
Yes. Sorry. So
yeah, go for it.
So the first one was be specific.
Okay.
Number 2, set yourself big and compelling goals.
All right. Awesome.
Number three is, I've just, it's just gone blank. It's basically write your goals down. It sounds very simple, but not a lot of people write their goals down. They keep it in their mind, and they have like a vague idea. They have they want to do something, or they might have a wish, and they just keep it all in their mind. What I would say is write it down. You know, write your goals down. It could be on a vision board. It could be writing down on a piece of paper, sticking them somewhere where you can see them as well. So number 3 is write your goals down. Number 4 is look at those goals and review those goals daily. You know, any opportunity you get, any free time you have during the day, look at those goals, because that's going to help you to stay on track. That's going to act as a constant reminder. And it's really important for the big goals, especially those goals which take you, you know, 3 months, 6 months to achieve. It's really important that you can see them, because it's really kind of, it's really powerful. And it's based on scientific research that once you've written your goals down, your chances increase tremendously. I think it's about over like 60%, the chances increase of you achieving those goals. So it's really powerful stuff. And then the 5th point is making sure that those goals are actually in line with your own values. So it's really got to be important that they're personal and meaningful to you, and they're your goals and not anybody else's. So that's the 5-step approach, you could say.
Amazing. Awesome. So we have it here. So we have the 5 key areas to goal setting. You heard it on this podcast, guys. Number 1, specific. Number 2, big goals out of your comfort zone. Shoot for the moon and you'll reach the stars. That was it. What we're looking for. Number 3, write your goals down. Number 4, write your goals down. And number 5, review those goals daily. So already that, plus we have more that we already covered, right? We talked about reading. We talked about the gratitude. We talked about planning and so much already. So I just wanted to thank you again for all that we're covering today. And I hope you guys, again, are taking notes. And if you're getting value out of this, make sure to let me know in the comments. We talked about goal setting. We talked about performance. We talked about, you know, creating a success mindset. We already covered so much. Now, I guess the one more thing that I do want to make sure to cover on this episode with you, and I think you're an amazing person to talk about this, is the self-talk that we sometimes have, right? So a lot of us as entrepreneurs, sometimes we have this inner voice. And this inner voice, because as entrepreneurs, we are high achievers and we want to push ourselves, can sometimes be a little bit tough. It can sometimes not be the most positive voice. How do we work on that? How do we work on developing a mind and an inner voice that is a bit more positive, that is able to drive us towards our goals and our work without having to deal with all the negative self-talk that also comes with it sometimes?
Yeah, the negative self-talk or the inner critic, that's always going to be there. One thing to actually realize that voice is always there. You just got to make sure that you manage that whenever it raises its ugly head up. Okay, and whenever it's actually starting to talk to you, you need to be able to recognize, firstly, okay, this is what it's trying to tell me to say. This is what it's trying to tell me to do. Now, like if somebody's going for a job interview, okay, en route to the job interview, they always get these doubts in their mind. Okay, you know, who do you think you are going for this job? You know, there's going to be 3 people on the panel. They're going to, you know, you're nervous. You're never going to be able to get this job. There's like hundreds of other candidates that have applied for this job. And, you know, that's a really, that's a real practical situation. And I'm sure lots of people are going to probably be in that situation now due to, you know, COVID and things like that. But when it comes to negative self-talk, okay, it happens to me as well. It happens to all of us, okay, at different times in our lives and different situations. You know, when I'm getting ready to do a public speech, or, you know, speaking in front of an audience, you know, I get that those voices come to me. But the main thing is, firstly, to recognize that you can switch that voice off. You can actually change it into more empowering thoughts. Okay, so you could use positive affirmations. You could actually like say it loudly to yourself. Okay, once that voice comes up, says you are not good enough, you can say, actually, who do you think you are? I know I'm good enough. I know I can achieve this X, Y, and Z. So you could treat it as, how would you see your best friend, or what advice would you give to your best friend if they were actually saying these things to you? So if you could treat it as a friend, okay, but a critical friend, so you could stop it, you know, in terms of when it started to say negative things to you, then you can be able to control it and manage it. So you could use kind of positive affirmations to change that. Talking of positive affirmations, that's another really powerful habit that you could actually do. You know, there's lots of affirmations that you can do for confidence, for abundance, for mindset, for confidence, and there's lots of affirmations you can make yourself, and there's a lot of affirmation on YouTube that you can see as well. So if anybody actually wants to use affirmations, I would say they are powerful, but again, it comes down to consistency. So again, you know, you could spend 10 minutes out of your day like reading the affirmations, and that could really help you to boost your mindset. But I think when it comes to negative self-talk, it's just making sure that you can actually realize that, okay, I need to control this voice. I need to be able to control it and not let that control you and how you feel.
Yeah.
And then that's just one kind of, you could say one tool. One of the other areas is you could say things like, if you've got a negative, negative self-talk going on, it's making sure that you could, for example, you could wear an item of clothing. When you wear that item of clothing, that makes you feel fantastic. That makes you feel really good. Okay, it could be your best shirt. It could be your favorite top. Once you put that on, you could actually program that. So when you put that on, those negative voices will go away. So there's so many different, there's different tools and techniques that you could use in order to, get rid of the negative self-talk, but also boost your confidence along the way.
100%. And affirmations is a really, really powerful tool. And it's interesting you bring up that about, finding a piece of clothing or something that when you put on, you feel a little more confident. You feel a little more, happy in your skin. One thing that I read as well is these triggers that you can use, like clothing that you just use as an example. Another, I was kind of listening to an audiobook, about, I think it was from the guy that was popular for The Wolf of Wall Street, the actual guy, Jordan Belfort. There you go. And in his book, which talks about selling, he actually has one real sales technique that he uses. He says, before you go into a sales meeting and you're nervous and you're stressed, he has this little thing. It's called a boom boom or whatever it is. And it's essentially this capsule that looks like lipstick, but it's not. It's actually like a bar of scent. It's like a bar of perfume. But you open it and you smell it, and it's a very powerful smell. And he says before every sales meeting, he opens that up, takes a deep kind of like sniff of it, and then he associates that with a positive feeling and a confident feeling, and with positive affirmations every time he does it. And so it kind of became like a trigger. Whenever he's feeling anxious, stressed, he pops that up, he takes a big whiff, and all of a sudden that rewires his brain to feel the same way he's programmed his brain to feel when doing that over time, which is what you said. Sometimes we have that, that really our favorite sweater, our favorite t-shirt. Every time we wear it, we feel good, we feel happy. If that makes you happy, then leverage that and use it in situations where you might, be in a negative state. And so I just think it's super powerful. Other influencers have talked about it. So it definitely works, and it's a very powerful tool to use along with affirmations as well. One thing that I noticed as well in my experience, and you can maybe comment on that, is, for example, let's say again, it kind of might fall into goals, but we set these targets, we have these plans, and then we don't necessarily reach them, and then we kind of start to beat ourselves up. Sometimes an affirmation might not be kind of like enough for you to feel like, yes, I'm great, but I know I messed up. I know I still didn't hit that goal and I could have done better. What's something proactive that we can do to change our state in that scenario, right? Where we just know, listen, we kind of missed the ball this time. How can we change this and move forward in a more positive manner? And I know we might have touched on it a little earlier, but I'd love to hear if there's a different perspective for this.
I think for me, I always take things as a learning curve. And, life is a journey, and we are going to have our ups and downs. We're going to have situations which we cannot control. And you have to be able to kind of learn from those situations. You have to adapt yourself and then come back stronger. Yeah. And if you don't achieve a particular goal, it doesn't mean to say that you're not good enough as a person, or, don't take it personally on yourself, and don't kind of increase your anxiety and stress levels because of that goal not being achieved. Now, if this goal means so much to you, okay, you're not going to give up. You're going to try again. And, sometimes our goals do change, or, the goals stay the same, but our route will change of how we get there. We might take, instead of taking, a year to achieve our goals, things are going to happen in life, and life is going to throw curveballs at you, but you have to actually be able to, just use those as learning curves and come back kind of stronger and just bounce back from those challenges. And again, I think it's just making sure that, like, be a lifelong, be a person that actually is going to be someone who's going to actually be a lifelong learner, you could say. So one of my mentors, he always used to use the phrase fail forward. So instead of actually, like failing, he was always like failing backwards or going 2 steps back. It's actually, he used to say failing forward. So it's like, you're going to a more positive kind of way of life because you're learning from those mistakes, but you're also going to move forward in the best possible way. And one key thing I think to mention is also reflection. Now, reflection is key. Now, I've started to do more and more reflection. So I always take out at least 10 minutes every day to reflect on my day. So, what have I achieved today? What's been good? What's not been so good? What is it that's something, what is it that I've learned from today, and how I can actually do better tomorrow? Mm-hmm. So there's always key things that you can learn from yourself, because, you are the best person who can actually achieve that success for you. And you are the best person. Only you know yourself the best. So you can work with whoever you want, but in the end, it's going to be down to you taking those steps and those daily actions.
Yeah, definitely. And you brought up a really good point, which is the fact that, failure is important. It's part of the process, right? And that's one thing that I want to really emphasize on this podcast. And it's one thing that I still experience on a daily basis. I constantly fail in my business. I try new things. I try different marketing strategies. I try different ways to promote or sell something, and it might not work. And then I try something else and it works. And it's just a constant cycle of failure and success. And I'll be completely transparent and say that the failures are much more numerous than the success is. But the thing is, the more you fail, the more lessons you've built up in your arsenal to prepare you for that success, so that when it does come, it magnifies itself even more and more, just based on the amount of failures that you've had to get there. So I think it's important to realize that it's part of the process and that it is going to be part of the cycle. And as you mentioned, to reflect, I think reflect is an important activity that we must practice on a daily basis to understand what went wrong, why did that failure happen, and then is that telling us an indication of something that we need to adjust in our behavior, in our thinking, in our process, and then how do we move forward leveraging this new information that we've just acquired thanks to this failure. So that's a quick tip for you guys. And before we dive into the Q&A, Brother Sulaiman, there's one question that we ask to every single guest on the show, and this is one of my favorite questions. This is, if you could meet Sulaiman from a number of years ago when he was just before he started coaching, he was interested. He wanted to help people, and he was maybe struggling in his life at that point. It might be when you had just lost your father, rahimahullah, and you were in a low point in your life and you're struggling, and you could tell him that one thing to keep him going, to keep him focused. What would that one thing be?
I think for me, it would be embracing opportunities and look at all the experiences that you have and take them as an opportunity. And opportunities are always around us. We just fail to see them. So, there's always something in every situation. There's an opportunity, and you just have to find that opportunity. You just need to look hard, and that opportunity, there will be something that can come out from that situation.
That's beautiful. That's really, really nice to hear. And this is why it's one of my favorite questions to ask, because I feel like everyone can resonate to these answers because they're simple and they boil down to core values. And I love to hear, answers from different people. And your answer was just absolutely beautiful. Now, this is the time where we dive into some audience Q&A. We have a bunch of viewers who have sent in questions already and who are excited to hear your answer. Are we ready to do this?
Yes, let's go. Inshallah.
All right, let's do it. So, all right, guys. So, if you guys have any more questions, drop them in the comments. We already have quite a few lined up for Brother Sulaiman here, so we'll try to go through as many as possible. If you guys have any more, this is the time. And to watch live and drop questions, you have to be inside of our Ummahpreneur Facebook group. So, if you're listening after the fact, make sure to join the group to be able to do this. So, let's dive into some questions here. The first one we have is how to cope up and get back on track, reset our mindset when we reach a burnout, a sudden burst of accumulated emotions caused by a series of challenges and personal life failures. So this is really, I guess, at a point where you're kind of a very low point in your life. How do we reset that mindset and get back on track?
I think the first thing is to actually recognize that you are actually going through that situation. So however you're feeling, don't feel like, okay, I can't release these emotions or feelings. It's important that you actually, express that feeling, express those, sorry, my phone's just started to vibrate. So yeah, basically all you need to do is you need to be able to recognize those feelings. One of the greatest ways to actually do that is actually write those feelings down. Make yourself a journal, write down how you feel on a daily basis. When you are going through those challenging times or those moments in life where you are at a real low point, write your feelings down. Talk to people, use people that are around you, your family, your friends, your network. And if you need to seek professional help, then you need to get that help. Okay, whether it's counseling, whether it's therapy, whatever it is that you need if you're going through mental health issues, seek that support, seek that professional help, and inshallah, those situations will begin to improve. But it's all about making those small changes. Don't think that that you need to put extra pressure on yourself or extra kind of burden on yourself to do something. The main thing is, take tiny steps, take baby steps towards getting yourself out of these situations.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Brother Sulaiman. So you heard it. Make sure to take small steps and don't hurt yourself more than you need to by already having reached a burnout. Take it one step at a time. So thank you for sharing that. We got another one here from Sister Askarini, and she mentions something interesting that I would love to touch upon. She says, you mentioned about experiences empowering youth, teenagers. So if you guys remember early in the podcast, we talked about how Brother Sulaiman not only coaches online one-on-one, but also even goes to secondary schools and youth centers and communities to help them on an organizational level or even in terms of group coaching. And he does this with youth as well. So she's asking, how do you approach them and gain their trust? How do you work with younger people than adults, for example?
I think with young people, again, it's completely different. When you're working with young people, you have to build that trust, you have to build that relationship, and you have to be open and honest with them and treat them like adults as well, because that's how you gain their respect. And if you've got something that you want to share with them, you need to be able to gain that kind of respect from them in order for them to actually go away with the message. But I think, like, for me, my experience has been, like, I used to be a youth worker for the local council. So I've worked in those communities where the young people have been, going through challenges, whether that be in like foster care, whether that be in kind of part of broken families. So it's about actually making sure that you learn as much as you can about the young person and show them that you are empathetic towards them, you do care about them, and also you want to help them and give them that kind of guidance and just be that positive role model for them. So it's important that you do, be genuine and authentic with them, because young people can see straight through you. So as long as you are genuine and you're showing, care and, approaching with a friendly attitude, then, that will really help you to break down those barriers and move forward with them.
Definitely. And that's a great answer for that. And I completely can relate to that. I mean, I have young nephews myself, and it really, as you mentioned, they can sniff it out, right? So it's important to kind of reach them on their level, also not treat them like their children. I think that's a big thing that even us, when we're younger, we really appreciate. And we looked for adults who kind of viewed us as someone that can interact on that level. We have a few more questions here. I'll dive into maybe two more, inshallah, guys. If you have any more, drop them in the comments. We'll try to go through them as many as possible. So we have one more here. Let's do this one, which is, what is the okay, so here, what if the environment is negative? So someone's asking if their environment is negative, and there's always a challenge related to relatives, society, maybe colleagues, maybe clients. How do I develop a positive attitude and while also ignoring that negativity that's around me? So there's a bit of a challenge of environment here. So how do we cope with that?
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier on, your environment, your surroundings, and the people that you're around is key in your success. I would say it plays a massive part in your going forward in a very kind of successful and positive way, and it can really impact how you lead your life. Yeah. So for me, I think the main thing is, like, when I started my business, I had a lot of I was around the wrong people. I was around people that were giving me wrong advice, people that were not actually giving me that belief that I could actually do this. So for me, I think it's about distancing yourself from those people, trying to keep kind of your conversations to a minimum. I know if it's close family and friends, it's very difficult, but the best way to deal with it is actually, firstly, like, through your actions and through your through taking action and showing them, kind of, rather than talking, let your work do the talking, as they say. That's one. And number two is actually try to avoid situations where there's going to be confrontation or where there is going to be possible conflict. So don't talk about those particular things that you are, that is causing that kind of friction. So it's important that you just, keep the conversation lighthearted. And again, it's not about kind of being rude to people or ignoring people. It's actually about just making sure that, you can manage those situations, and, and just, like, don't focus on that side. Don't focus on that negativity. Actually bring that positive energy into the surrounding areas, into the environment that you're in. And, 100%. Inshallah, they will see that there is definitely, because those same people will, they will come back to you and say, wow, they will be amazed that, yeah, you've achieved this, or, yeah, you've got a fantastic community here. You're doing some amazing work, and they will recognize that. Yeah. And, so it does take time for people to even come on board or even see what your mission is or what your purpose is.
100%. And you also mentioned something, and it reminds me of a quote that I read, which is, energy flows where focus goes. So if you're focusing on it as well, then you're contributing to nurture that, right? And there's a thinking by the Stoics, or a view by the Stoics, which is essentially that, there's something can only affect you if you give it that power, right? If you if you allow it to affect you in a certain way. But if you don't allow these things in your mind and within yourself to affect you, then that's where your power lies. Just like, let's say when someone insults you, it's not the insult that's hurting you. It's your feelings towards hearing that word being said from that person in that manner that hurts you. But you can just take it as it is and be like, you know what? Well, I choose not to feel insulted in this moment. And that it ends there, right? The power is completely gone. So that's also a very powerful view. And I appreciate you mentioning that. We'll do one more, guys, inshallah, with Brother Sulaiman, because we're running tight on time. But if you have any more questions, drop them in the comments and we'll try to respond them after the episode. We have one more here, and this is the last one we'll go through, which is there a possible solution or suggestion in a situation where we have to convince somebody to trust our goals and vision for the future? Because sometimes the problem isn't our mindset or our vision or goals, but the barriers created by those who don't trust our strength and abilities. So this question here, where someone maybe wants to do something, maybe they're with a partner, the partner doesn't really kind of believe in that vision as much. It might be a little bit risky. Is there anything that we can do in that scenario, or anything that you would maybe recommend or give advice for?
I think just try to keep those people on board. It is important, but don't try to, you're not there to like prove to other people that you can do something. You want to be the best version of yourself, and it's down to kind of you just to improve yourself. And through that improvement, they are going to see a different person. They're going to see changed behaviors. They're going to see somebody who's going to be like transformed into a new kind of new person with new habits and new traits, and that's going to all kind of play a part, and that's going to show you as a different person, a more positive person, and hopefully that's going to allow them to see that, okay, after all, everything that they're doing, all the work that they're putting in, it is actually doing something different, and that's going to create a beautiful kind of relationship with with two people, or if there is any kind of relationship issues, those would also be affected in a more positive way. So you're not there to change people, and it's not something that I think you shouldn't be focusing on trying to change someone. It's about you just being the best you can, and then through those changes that you make, that other person will also see those changes.
100%. And there's a trend in your answers, which is, I'm really seeing a trend, and it's the being proactive. It's essentially really the pattern that you're demonstrating is to be proactive, in that we all know those people who talk a big game, right? Like they have these big goals, these big visions, but they never take action on them. And so eventually over time, people around them lose trust. So it's important that you prove yourself to gain that trust from other people and to gain their support, because people want to see that you're actually taking action before they give you that support and that trust you need sometimes. And it's important for you to, instead of maybe focus on, well, there's this issue, so I can't do it. Well, what can I do? What are little changes that I can make? Like you mentioned yourself, what are small steps that I can take that are going to show the other person that, look, these are the results that I'm getting with these actions that I'm taking, so that they can come on board and realize, okay, this is actually, this is happening, and that person is serious about what they're trying to do. And I think that's a big thing. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. Awesome. So this is the last of the questions that we'll take for our Q&A, guys. If you have any more, again, drop them in the comments. And Brother Sulaiman, we've talked about so many topics today. We've talked about mindset. We've talked about goal setting. We've talked about eliminating negative self-talk. We've talked about productivity and performance. So many takeaways for our listeners. Now, if someone wants to connect with you a little bit more, they want to follow you, they want to keep gaining that knowledge and those golden nuggets, where's the best place to do that? Where should we send them to?
So my website address is sullyali.com. That's
Okay.
SULLYALI.com. You can catch me on my Facebook business page, which is Sully Ali Coaching. And if anybody wants to connect with me on Facebook, then it's Sulaiman Ali. So yeah, I'm in the group as well.
Awesome.
So anybody can reach out to me at any point if they need any help, any advice, or if I can help them in any way. If anybody does go onto my website, on there there's also a link where you can actually sign up to receive my weekly newsletter. So I send out a weekly blog or an article through email. So it's not kind of, I'm not trying to spam you in any way or sell something to you. It's just for extra kind of motivation, extra nuggets that I could share with my community on a weekly basis.
Awesome. So we've already dropped those links in the comments, so make sure to visit them and check them out. We'll also drop them in the description of the video. Sulaiman, thank you so much for joining me today. Honestly, it's been a pleasure. I've gained so much from it just through our conversation, and so many takeaways that I'm going to implement in my life to, inshallah, have more positive results in terms of my life and my business. So I hope you guys will do the same. I really hope you guys took notes and just really make sure to apply what we talk about here. Don't just listen. Don't just, say, okay, that's a great idea. And those are some amazing points that he's making. Actually take the time to apply them in your lives and set yourself different goals and different challenges to make sure to implement what we talk about on this podcast. And that's how you'll get the most out of it, inshallah. Again, Sulaiman, thank you so much for joining us today. Jazakallah khair. We hope to have you back on in the future, inshallah. And guys, thank you for listening in. Make sure to subscribe and follow this podcast on whatever platform you're watching. And if you haven't joined the group, make sure to do so. We'll see you in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you.
My pleasure.